Okay, now we have this cool fireball effect, or rather it's not an effect, weapon. We want to make sure that it actually does something to the enemy. I mean, right now it sort of moves the enemy around a little bit. It doesn't kill it, which is no good for our little hero here. So let's go ahead and do that, shall we? Okay, so let's go to the enemy. Actually, I think I want to make this a prefab as well, because I'm going to have more than just one. Let's make that into a prefab. There we go. And we want it to basically die when it's hit by the fireball, right? So we're going to add a new state. And I'm just going to say destroyed or hit. And I'm going to add a global transition. Now, a global transition allows you to go into this particular state regardless of which state you're currently in. Let me just add this first. So I'm going to do collision enter 2D. So usually to go for example, in this case, to go to the jump right state, you have to be in this state, and then a event will connect one state to the other. But with a global transition, as soon as this event happens, regardless of which state we're currently in, we're going to go to this hit state, right? Okay. So when a collision enters, right, when a collision happens with the enemy block, we're going to do something to it, right? So we're going to check if the collider is a fireball, right? So we're going to, oh, I'm not using this one. So let's create a new game object called, just call it collider. And in the hit state, let's do get collision 2D info. And we're going to store the game object hit in the collider object, collider variable. And then let's check the tag of that object. Set that to the collider to see if it's the fireball. Now make sure we have the fireball tagged as fireball. Okay, so you might not have that, so go to add tag, make sure that this fireball prefab has the tag fireball. Oops. Okay, now let's go back to our enemy block. And if it's true, we're going to say destroy event. We're going to add that event here. Destroy self state. Okay. Now, finally, we want to have one more action called, I can't find it, I'm going to search for it. Go to previous state. Now, why do we need this? The thing is, if we start with, because we don't know what the previous state is, we can either always go back to jumping left, or we can try to go to whatever the previous state is. So I think it's probably a good idea to have this here, although it doesn't really matter that much since we don't we don't really care for a super precise movement positioning of the enemy. I think it's kind of fun when it's a little bit random. So I'm going to just tell it to go back to the previous state if the collider is not a fireball, just basically ignoring what happened here. And finally, destroy itself. Let's just do destroy itself. Okay. Let's run that and see how it behaves. Okay, so oh, my character died. Basically, it's jumping. Seems to be okay so far. Now, once I start shooting it, doesn't seem to have any effect at all. It's a success. I sort of paused the recording for a bit to investigate what's going on, and I think there might be a bug right now when I'm recording this with the collision enter 2D action along with the layers, because everything is set up properly. I'm not sure why it's not working, but let's not worry about that, because there are things we can do to continue. So instead of using the global transition event, let's just have let's set up things the way we normally do anyway. So let's do a collision event. Okay, collision 2D event, and let's put the collider into collider and check and see if it's a fireball. And if it is, we're going to send a hit event. Let's add the hit event here. Check my spelling. Right, so we're going to do the hit event. Make sure we have that event here. And it's going to go there. We're going to get rid of that too. And here the same thing, we're going to add the hit event. We're going to check, copy and paste this action. We're going to check for the same fireball collision. When that happens, let's go hit. And here we don't need these two anymore because we already checked for the tag up here. And this might be a cleaner way to do it. Just make sure I select this object. Okay, so that's good. Let's go into the right state. That's good. Left a fireball in the scene. Let's get rid of that. Okay, now what I want to do is have a little bit of sort of effect before we destroy this object. I'm just going to change that to the finished state. Okay. So we're going to wait 2 seconds before we destroy the object, and using that 2-second period, I am going to do a few things. Let's see. Let's use the blink action. So this is kind of a fun little action. Basically, it just turns the renderer on the object on and off, so you'll see this object blink basically. I'm going to do 0.2, 0.2. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like. right? So it starts blinking. Now if that number is smaller, then it's going to blink faster. So let's do that. And also, once it's hit, I want to remove the collider on this thing because I don't want it to still interact with other things. So let's do that. Collider. Let's see if I can control it directly here. Oop. I don't think there's an action to turn that off directly, but that's okay. Let me just double check and see if there's anything in Physics 2D that we can use. I don't really see it. Use our set property feature of Playmaker. So simply drag. Let me do that again. Drag this component down here and a set property. So what I want to do is I want to turn this into a trigger, so it stays in the scene, but it doesn't continue to interact with anything else. Okay, so let's see if I can find the isTrigger property and just make that true. Right, check that. Okay, let's see how that looks. Okay, so it just sort of becomes transparent, actually starts blinking and then sort of falls through the floor because it's no longer a collider, and it just sort of disappeared. Then it just sort of falls off the screen. So that's fine. It's kind of a fun little effect we have.